Hi, I'm the Red Lady and welcome to episode 7 in my Shamanic Witchcraft 101 series. So let's talk about clairvoyance. First of all, this video will be in 3 sections. In the first, I will be talking about clairvoyance in general, and there'll be a few book recommendations. The second part is a guided meditation you can follow along with if you like. And the third part is discussing the meditation and bringing up some questions that may be able to help you decode what transpired during the meditation. And I will talk about some of my own early experiences with clairvoyance as well. So I have put some timestamps in the description box below for your convenience. So you can do the meditation whenever you're free to do it in a quiet place, and you can skip straight to it then when you're ready to do it. That's if you want to do it. Clairvoyance means clear seeing. So clairvoyance in relation to shamanic practice is when information is imparted to the practitioner by the spirit world, and more particularly by the spirits that the practitioner has built a relationship with. And this information is mostly given in the form of pictures that can be viewed in the mind's eye. So these pictures are mostly symbolic, and after being received are then interpreted by the practitioner and passed on to the appropriate person or client, or used by the practitioner in some other way, such as for artwork, writing or poetry, or the magical arts. So gaining a good knowledge basis in archetypal symbolism is extremely helpful for anyone who wants to develop their clairvoyance skills. However, when practicing these skills over time, you will become aware that you are also building your own personal dictionary of symbols and what they mean to you. And also the spirits will show you certain symbols that will help you do this. And they will use familiar, what is known as calling cards. Being shown certain symbols will let you know which spirit is present without having to expend too much precious energy. So as an example, a specific spirit may give you a calling card of the image of a bee. And so when you get the image of a bee, you know that a specific spirit is present. And so as you build relationship perhaps with many different spirits, you are able to clearly discern who you are dealing with and which of those spirits is giving the information. Of course, there are other psychic senses that are utilised by the practitioner, clairaudience and clairsentience, for example. And in most cases of spirit communication, a number of developed senses will be working simultaneously. So, although many people do find that they may have one psychic sense that is predominant over the others, and that's the one that they rely on the most. So I will be making videos on those other senses as this series progresses. And as for this video, and what I feel is needed in relation to this entire series are explanations of the nature of spirit communication and how this can be established by individuals who are new to this practice. And clairvoyance is a key topic here. So even though I have just told you that spirits use clairvoyance to communicate with practitioners, there is a huge difference between using clairvoyance to receive information and having a mediumistic ability. So not all clairvoyants are mediums. And some clairvoyants will read the energy of other people or places or objects and receive images and impressions that way. A medium is receiving information directly from a discarnate spirit, not from another human being or object, and that's the difference. And so all mediums are clairvoyant, but not all clairvoyants are mediums. So mediumship in and of itself is on another level, a higher level of ability than, if you like, from developing the psychic senses alone. So shamanic practice in most cases, depending on what area you intend to specialise in, will nearly always involve the ability of mediumship. And through this series, hopefully you will be able to establish whether or not you have that mediumship ability. You know, even if mediumship and spirit work isn't your goal here, you can still follow the series and hopefully gain a better understanding of your own individual psychic abilities and how you can utilise them in your everyday life for purposes of personal growth or to help others. So, in order to progress as a shamanic practitioner and work with the spirits, you first need to develop your psychic skills. And if you do not develop your psychic skills, then the road ahead will be closed. Developing any psychic sense requires practice, and some people may take a while longer than others, but that doesn't matter one little bit. It's not a race. The one important requirement for this development in the first instance is that you will need a quiet space without any interruptions or outside interference, and you will need to organise this quiet space to work uninterrupted on a regular basis. So, you know, if you are serious about developing these skills, organisation of this type of space is necessary, and you can work alone. Some people find it helpful to work in pairs, and if you can find someone who also wants to develop or is at least sympathetic to it and is willing to assist you, you know, that's helpful as well. Some people will look to join a local group or psychic development circle. You know, you can practice in a range of different circumstances with other people who are developing as well, or you can work alone. You know, let your intuition guide you as to what circumstances fit you best, and the usual place to start would be to have a quiet time to meditate and clear your mind, no distractions, forget everything else for a while, and to follow a guided meditation. So I do have a few tips for you before we get to that, and some other points I want to cover. So it will serve you well to limit your visual input, such as TV or film. If you are a prolific reader of books, then visualization may come easier, because when you read a book, say a fiction novel, the reader is visualizing the events as they are unfolding in the book and using their own mind to visualize that story. So the person who consistently watches TV or film rather than reading will be relying on their physical eyesight to put the pictures of the story into their mind. And so reading regularly is going to be strengthening your inner vision, while watching film or TV will weaken your inner vision in the long term if you don't have any balance there. So I'm not saying you should never watch TV or never ever watch a movie. You know, everybody does. So from time to time, maybe to unwind, relax, whatever. You know, what I'm trying to say is, if you're not a reader of books, then maybe start doing that instead of watching TV, and you will notice the difference when you are developing your clairvoyance. You know, it is also really helpful to do mini visualizations that can be done any time of the day. If you have a spare 5 minutes or less to stand or sit and be still for a moment and choose an object to visualize. You know, you could choose an apple and visualize it in your mind's eye, every aspect of the apple, from its shiny red and green skin to how it might feel in your hand if you touched it, or how might it taste? You know, does it look real or does it look cartoon-like? So each time you get a minute or two, you could be on the bus or even a passenger in a car, and someone else is obviously driving, or you're on a break at work, sitting down at home maybe with a cup of tea. So each time you do this image, imagine this image, imagine something different, anything, a fork, a rose, a lamp, a teapot. This is a simple way of practicing regularly, and it isn't particularly taxing on your time or energy either. So as far as psychic development goes at this point in time, you can do an online search by typing psychic development books, and a ton of books are going to pop up on the subject. Learning from books that other people have written on the subject is another good way to start, and most of these books are going to include helpful tips, guided meditations, visualizations that you can follow, and the author's account of their own experiences with psychic development is always good. It would be, impossible to try and read them all. So how do you know which ones are going to be the most helpful to you? And I can only speak from my own experience here, and I do have a couple of books that for me stood out and helped me enormously in the beginning. So self-help books for psychic development are recommended for beginners, and also books on symbolism, as I mentioned earlier. So the first book I am going to recommend is Be Your Own Psychic by Sharon Mays. It's not a new book. It was published 20 years ago, and in 2003. And this is a book that I found enormously helpful at the beginning of my own psychic development many years ago. There is pretty much everything the beginner needs to know in this book. There are quizzes, visualizations, guided meditations, and exercises in here to help you develop your psychic faculties. She relays a story of her own experiences, and there are stories of other people's experiences in here as well. There's information on scrying and psychometry, and as far as a self-help book goes, that you can work on at home in your own time, it really is a great book. I can't praise it enough, to be honest. I know it was published some time ago, but if you have the chance to get your hands on a copy of this book, do it, because you will not be disappointed. So the next book, this book is Developing Mediumship by Gordon Smith. It's a tiny little bit more advanced than the previous book I showed you. In here, Gordon talks about trance work and distance healing, and there are guided meditations and visualizations in here. He also talks about the responsibilities of providing services to the public, and this book was published in 2009. So these books are not newly published, but they are books that I have personally used and found enormously informative and helpful. And I would just like to point out as well that they are not witchcraft based or centered on shamanic practice for that matter, but they are books that help you develop psychic skills, and this is what this video is about. And they really helped me in the beginning, and they are more related to spiritualism than anything else, but to be fair. So this next book is a book centered on my own practice of shamanic witchcraft. So this is my book, The Red Lady, An Introduction to Magick and Shamanic Witchcraft, which is essentially written like a starter manual for those new to the path that are not quite sure whether they are shamanic based or witchcraft based. You can be both. Don't let anyone ever tell you how you should label or define your own personal practice, because no two people will ever walk the same path. So I wrote this book about 10 years ago, and so again, it's not a new publication. And the reason I wrote it was because I needed to write the book that I myself would have liked to have had to hand in the beginning. So this book was written as a result of my own shamanic call. It explains the various ways in which the spirits might call to you, might call you to your vocation. And I explain about initiation and learning to recognise different energy types. There are protection and grounding techniques in here, information on lots of topics from dance to scrying and the importance of keeping a journal, and lots of other witchcraft related information like setting up your first altar, attributes of various gods and spirits that you may come into contact with, and basics of planetary and zodiac energy. So anyway, I'll put a link in the description box to this book if anyone thinks this may be of use to you at this point on your journey. So moving on, books on symbols. So this book is an illustrated encyclopedia of traditional symbols by J.C. Cooper. Now, I couldn't live without this book. It's a brilliant book that not only gives information on universal symbolism, but shows how different symbols vary in meaning across different cultures. So this was published in 1978, and so it is literally as old as I am. So brilliant book, I can't recommend it enough. And this last book is the illustrated Signs and Symbols source book by Adele Nozadar. Great book. It's got lots of pictures, lots of information, highly recommended and very useful indeed. It's a big book. So, yeah. So, before we do the meditation, just first a few words to help you prepare. Some people prefer to read guided meditations rather than listen to them, and so I've linked this meditation in my blog for you to read. So I'll put a link in the description box below if you prefer to do that. And this guided meditation is also available to read in my book as I just described. So I mean, I personally prefer to read guided meditations and visualize as I go along rather than have someone talk me through it, but everyone's different, and so, you know, do get comfortable in a quiet space. Don't forget I have timestamps in the description box for your convenience. So this would be a good time now to practice the protection and grounding techniques I talked about in episode 2, and using the energetic space clearing methods from episode 3. So grounding and preparing your personal space is quite important for a beginner. So guided meditation is up next. Take a deep breath and clear your mind. Take another deep breath and another. You are taking a leisurely walk in the countryside in the summertime. The weather is pleasant and you can feel the warmth of the sun on your face. You come across a secret entrance to a pathway that leads into a forest. No one else can see this secret entrance but you. You walk through the entrance and you are now on the path. The trees on both sides of the path you are walking are strong and sturdy. They have shaded the path with a canopy of dazzling emerald green. As you walk further along the path, you become aware that the forest is alive and has a loving presence. You are surrounded by the loving presence of your natural surroundings as you walk further along the path. Looking ahead, you notice an animal emerges from behind the trees on the right-hand side of the path, as though it is about to cross the path in front of you. It walks onto the pathway and then stops to take a look at you. It waits as you approach it. It does not fear you. It has been waiting for you. As you continue to walk past the animal, it decides it is going to walk along with you. And you walk together further along the pathway. The animal knows every inch of the forest, and you can walk assured that it will guide and protect you every step of the way. The path takes you to a bridge that runs over a river that crosses the path. As you and the animal cross the bridge, you notice the water running underneath and hear the rushing sound of the flowing water. On the other side of the bridge is a clearing with a quaint log cabin. There is smoke puffing from the chimney, and it looks cosy and homely. You are about to visit the wise sage of the forest and walk towards the cabin with your animal. As you approach, the door opens and the sage steps out and beckons you in with a warm smile. Inside the cabin is a log fire. It is burning, and there are cosy chairs to sit in and a large rug for the animal to sit. You all sit down and you ask the sage a question. The sage's eyes glisten in the firelight, and your question is answered. You sit quietly for a while and consider the words of the sage. The sage stands and walks to a large chest in the corner of the room. The sage retrieves an object from inside the chest and hands it to you. That object is now yours. You thank the sage for the answer to your question and your object. It is now time to leave. You go to the door and the sage waves you and your animal goodbye, and you walk back to the bridge. As you walk over the bridge, you feel that you are clutching your object tightly, with a big smile on your face. You and the animal are now back on the forest path. The animal walks with you to the point where it met you, and it sits down on the path, unable to go any further. You thank the animal for its guidance and companionship and head further back down the path towards the entrance. The next time you walk this path, the animal will be waiting in the same spot, ready to guide you. You come back to the secret entrance and walk through it, and now you are back on the country road. The sun is shining on your face and you are still clutching your object. Take a deep breath and another, and open your eyes. Okay, post-meditation thoughts and questions. Post-meditation, you need to get grounded, maybe have a sandwich and write it all down in your psychic development diary or magical journal or notebook, and make sure you date it. Some important questions to consider would be, what kind of animal did you meet? What are the symbolic associations of that animal, and how does that apply to you in your life now? This could be one of your major spirit animal allies that will stay with you for the rest of your life, or it could be a spirit ally that is just dropping by to help you at this point in your journey. So the only way that you will know is if it consistently returns in subsequent guided meditations or shamanic journeys, or you develop a strong relationship with it, in due course. So a similar approach can be taken with whoever you met in the log cabin. Did you recognize them? What culture did they appear to come from? How were they dressed? This could be an ancestor or a spirit guide that is currently assisting you. They may appear this one time, or they may consistently return to you and want to build relationship. So the only way that you will know is if you continue to practice. So the object you received as well, this may be a power object that is an indicator of a hidden talent that you don't know that you have, or an indicator of your spiritual path. This is something to consider and possibly research if it's not clear to you what the object means. So this is where symbolism comes into play. And if you were given a pen, maybe you were meant to write a book, or if you were given a stethoscope or something, then maybe your path is maybe that of the healer. What does that object mean to you personally? And the last thing I want to say is about the bridge and the river. Was the bridge big or small, ruined or perfect? How was the river? More like a gentle babbling brook, or more like a raging torrent? How difficult the bridge and the river appears can sometimes indicate how easy or difficult it may be currently for you to connect with the spirit world. So if not a lot happened in the meditation, or if you just couldn't visualize well for whatever reason, then don't worry about it, because you could try coming back to it another time or doing a different guided meditation. So visualizing comes easy to some people, but maybe slightly more difficult for others in the beginning. It's just simply a case of practice. So shutting off the outside world for a while, especially in these modern times, can be difficult for some if you're used to the consistent stimulation of your phone or computer. So you could always try again another time when you're more relaxed. So in my own experience in the beginning, I've had relatives that have passed over come in through guided meditations. I've had a samurai warrior spirit guide that came through in an early meditation and has stayed with me for 18 years. I've had various spirit animal allies come and go, and a few that are much more consistent with regards to how frequently they show up to guide and support me. I've had times when I've struggled to connect and visualize at all, and other times, you know, it comes through as clear as day. So the key to progression is practice, and so don't forget to ground yourself and write it all down in your journal. Don't forget to check out the relevant links in the description box below. And if you enjoyed this video and got value from it, then please give it a like and subscribe and share, as it helps me out a lot. And thank you for watching, and I will see you soon.